on my pet truck.
Apparently Jed put chickens on the engine.
Alright, welcome back guys and gals, fellers and non-fellers, and everybody in between. Gotta catch all you guys. So we're here with the, I want to say Pro Stock Hemi, because I'm used to it sitting right here, but this is not the Pro Stock Hemi, clearly. This is the blown 440 we're building for the BarelyCuda. Let's just hood up. Don't worry about that. We're using that for measurements. So what we're working on is we're getting some of the odds and ends down on this engine that kind of forgot about, like an alternator. I didn't want a chrome one, but that's all that was in stock. MSD distributor, got that mocked up, painted the cap tan to try and make it look stock. Dad is doing the job I told him he was going to get. He's enjoying it thoroughly, extracting the broken stud, and then he's going to take the rest of the studs out. How you liking that, Dad?
No progress as of yet.
We'll get back to work. So what we're doing is I'm working on this alternator. We got ourselves a pretty one-wire Mopar Proform Chinese thingamajig. Like I said, all they had in stock was chrome, so I figure if we're gonna get a chrome pile of crap, let's at least get a pile of crap that's officially licensed. They're all about the same price, so it didn't matter. So we went ahead and drilled a about 600 thousandths, was a 9/16 hole there, and then this has the spacer that is used. It's built into this. It's press in and out. That's actually piloting itself into the motor plate. So one of the things we're going to do, Dad's idea, is we're going to build a spacer to go from this bolt hole on the head to the motor plate to help support this and keep it rigid so it doesn't flex around, because motor plates on failure at a drag strip because they move around a lot, and you can actually break the gasket seal and develop a hell of a water leak. So we don't want to have that. Way you can get around this, actually make two little pipes that'll slip into the block and slip into this water pump and glue them in, and then you eliminate, that gasket being ruptured. Even if the gasket ruptures, it'll still have water going through them pipes, but I didn't do that. Should have, but oh well. So we're going to build a spacer here to here, and that'll be bolted in tight, go all the way through, and that'll keep that rigid. And we got to figure out some kind of swing. This swings right now on itself, but we need an extra support coming off of something, but we'll worry about that once this spacer's made. And before too long, you guys will see this gloriousness in the BarelyCuda. Alright, so here's your update on the alternator. Another custom Scott Speed Shop deal. Just go show you, never look past the stupid ideas. I grabbed that triangular bracket that I had for the Pro Stock that I never used, and I just figured, don't know if we really need that swing arm, since it does have a good pivot. Now, it's not just on this bolt. When I take this back off, I will show you, it's actually sitting on this little spacer, and that's actually piloted into this, so this can't go anywhere. But now you can see this shaking the whole stand. There's no wobble to this now. So, yes, this looks silly. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark it. We're going to cut this right there, and we're going to cut that off, and then that'll be mounted to the water pump. And this is mounted to the motor plate, which is tied to the block now. So I don't know if you get any better than that really for homemade crap. So I'll cut those, paint the little ends black so they don't rust out real fast, and shape it and show you once we're done. Dad's getting them studs out like a mofo. He's a master. Look at him go. Alrighty, so there's the alternator mounted. We might work on maybe having a swing arm or something, because right now it just tight. It takes a lot of force to push it towards the engine, which will loosen the belt. We might work on having something to stabilize on the bottom, but it's solid as a rock. Don't mind the scratches in the chrome and how rough that looks. That's air compressor's going south, so I had to use my sanding wheel on the old bench grinder over there. And let me tell you, there's a reason why when guys make knives, they got a bucket of water. It makes shit hot. So we got that on there. Alternator, engine. Dad's got all the studs removed. So tomorrow, what?
And the threads are clean.
And the threads are clean. Thank you, thank you. Everybody give him a round of applause, please, down in the comments. So he feels important and super special. Okay, So we'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be this thing. Are you shining the light on you or Jegs?
I'm in the spotlight.
Oh, you're in the spotlight. Okay. Well, all right, we're just gonna give you an update. Well, just letting you know, this block has those two holes which are typically used for big blocks and A-bodies, funnily enough, and they're actually both drilled and tapped. So we went ahead and cleaned the threads in this one, and we put a spacer in here. Machine that is like almost 1.5 inches long, and what that's going to do is tie the motor plate directly to the block instead of putting all the strain on the 6 water pump bolts, which will break the gasket eventually. This gives you another point to make it rigid, because we did the same thing on this side over here. So now both ends of the motor plate are really solid, really sturdy. Alrighty guys and gals, so we're back from the No Name Nationals, and we just did some update videos on what's going on with Jezebel, which you guys have seen the shorts, you know what's going on. That's not what we're here for. We're here back finally with the BarelyCuda. You know, just got back yesterday, and next day we're already back on the car. So I ordered all this stuff before we left. I didn't know what we were gonna need, so I got everything for a 68 Barracuda, which is here, and everything for a 73 Duster, and even got an extra pitman arm for a power steering box, because I didn't know what we were gonna actually need. Too much misinformation on the internet, and I figured, you know, probably get everything for manual, but we'll get the extra power steering one because their measurements on Rock Auto were all wonky. Well, 73 A-body front suspension is what this car has, more or less, because it has the nut down style versus nut up, which is what the 68 Barracuda would have had originally. As you can see, the idler arm, the grease is towards the top instead of the nut. So verified that with my power or my manual box here, and it's correct. I figured before I go ahead and throw all this stuff in, let's do a little cleanup in here. We're gonna have to clean the paint off and weld our bars in here from Competition Engineering to make it a 12-point cage. Not because we need the 12-point, but because I'd like to brace up the front end. It's a little weak right in there. That's where the front clip will most likely fold. So we're gonna brace that up with some bars out here. So I'm gonna get the wire wheel out. We're gonna clean a bunch of this stuff off. Mainly my power steering box was leaking, and we're gonna shoot all this black if we got some black. If not, well, whatever we got our hands on. Okay, so went ahead and painted all black. I know it's the GM thing to do, but it's gonna be harder to paint when the engine's in here, and I figured, well, it's a race car, and getting whatever shade of blue that is gonna be really difficult. And yeah, that blue we did on the front nose don't match that dang good. So just went ahead, blacked it all out, just with satin black. It'll be fine. It's better than rust and multicolors. So okay, so we got pitman arm installed on here. We got it set at neutral. We took it apart, greased everything, re-greased it, kind of got the adjustment where it feels pretty good. We won't know until we get the steering column on this thing to make sure it needs to be where it needs to be. So we'll go ahead and get this thing set down, and obviously don't go right there, but we got our bolts all cleaned up. We're gonna Loctite those in place. We'll get those set in. They stop rolling. There. So yeah, we should be good to go. Should be, that's the word. Alrighty, so steering box is hooked back up. It's Loctited in place. Everything's done up down there. We've got true neutral on the wheels, which means they turn evenly both which ways. And that's good to go. Now I can start mounting the steering column and see if we're going to use the U-joint or not, which we most definitely will, because it's just a hell of a lot safer than that stock coupler. Alright, on with the saga of the coupler. As it turns out, the other two cars we've done this with have been manual steering columns, which would be a la Jezebel and Dad's Charger. This Barracuda is a power steering column, which you don't actually have to cut the end of it off because it's almost a perfect length, but that's also where the downside is. It's not really enough. It's like, my thought was we could get this off. See, there's that hole for that pin, and that hole is pretty big. And I was thinking maybe we just go ahead and use that hole and drill a hole through here. But the problem is, when you get this little hole for that set screw lined up just right, gotta push it back, get it just right there, where there's not going to be enough material on the top of this to drill through it and put a pin, or normally we use a shouldered bolt. There's not enough room for that, so we might end up having to weld this one on, which I don't like doing, because it basically makes this column worthless if anything ever happens. This U-joint be kind of a pain in the butt to cut it back off, because I'm going to probably TIG weld that on, and well, once it's TIG welded, it's TIG welded. It don't come back off really. All right, well, I guess we can't see too much, so I'll turn on the flashlight. So that is welded on. We just MIG welded it, and Dad and Nan I'm leaving them to do that while I film this update for you guys, because I'm a worthless piece of crap like that. Steering wheel, went ahead and put that on, and it's actually pretty good. I got to fix a broken stud because I gave it one too many Uggy Duggies. It's one of them. So work on that tomorrow. Make sure everything's kosher and cool. I see where I missed some paint actually. We'll just go ahead and come here, paint can. All right, guys and gals, so that's all done. All we gotta do is Loctite that little set screw in place, but the steering is all hooked up and works fabulous. So now what I gotta do is, I'm hoping maybe if Dad gets home early enough, we can get that engine made of the transmission in the car, maybe tonight. But I need to unload all this. This was in hopes of maybe settling those super stock leaf springs. 2 dozer heads, 2 Chrysler heads, some weights, some manifolds, that mill vise. I think there's a transmission cross member in here somewhere for the car. I regret doing that, because now I got to clean it all out. I'll see you guys in about an hour in a back leg later. Okay, before we unload this, we are looking at just shy of 2 inches on the driver's side. Clearance to the top of the tire. Going to the passenger side. That's a lot bigger. And 4 3/4. Okay. Don't know why that side is so much. Don't know what's going on there. Anyways, oh yeah, leaf springs. Also, the angle of the shackles sort of towards the back. Most definitely towards the back. That's how we want it to stay. We'll see what it looks like here in a second. Okay, so this will be, you'll actually see this clip twice in 2 separate videos more than likely. Because we're still working on the rear suspension. Trunk's completely unloaded. We didn't gain crap really. Hangers are still kind of way too low. Now I know fuel tank and battery will change, but not that much. We are at 6 inches now, which I think is more than what it was earlier. Go to the driver's side. 5, almost to 5.5. Okay, well, at least now it's only a 1/2 inch of difference now. Yeah, actually we did gain something. And went from having a 2-inch lean, or a 1-inch lean, to 1/2 inch, which is what it's supposed to be. Now we just got to get this car lowered, which super stock springs and lowering blocks is kind of a no-no, but I think it's what we're going to have to do, because I don't know if I could live with that. I don't know. I guess it ain't that bad. We'll see what happens. Anyways, so now on to engine and stuff. Alrighty, well, Dad's home. Barracuda's on the ground, getting the blower studs out, so we get the blower off, so that way it's one less thing to be in the way. Alrighty, transmission's there, got some bolts in it. Torque converter's all pressed in there, all nice and tight where it needs to be. Getting ready to uncouple this. We got the wheels out for the car. Anna's here, Dad is here now. Just made some bolts for the transmission cross member, because the factory one's got the little points on them to help them guide them through. And didn't have those, so just made some. Lathe come to the rescue, so let's get it. All right, well, the engine's almost free of the stand. We just gotta lift it up a little bit, and then be mating that on there, which is gonna be heavier than crap because it's full of fluid. Thank you, Daniel. So at least it's got good fluid in it, so get that done. Barracuda's up in the air as per usual with Scott's Speed Shop. We got the GoPro out of retirement because I broke the tripod that holds my phone, so look at there. It is free. Now to make those two together. Alright, so we got the trans shield and transmission bolted to the engine. Now we just got to put the torque converter bolts in. If you're ever going to use one of these CSR deals, which we got from Daniel, Allen head bolts are your friend. Don't try to use regular bolt hex bolts. They hit everywhere. So Word of wisdom. All right, pick her up, Dad. Aha! Look at that. Looks all racy and stuff. Let's start with Dad. Dad's little job he's doing is considerably more comical. Nick, did you get a paint cap with a little hole in it, Dad?
He did.
I did, but put the hole on top.
Thanks. Because, you know, I'm going to probably be the one underneath the car.
That's why I'm using electrical tape so you can
Yeah.
cut it off way better than Gorilla tape.
Yeah. You want to tell people about your,
Any port or storm,
yeah.
well, paint cap fits perfectly on this rear seal.
We'll see how well it actually seals.
Well, you got to put 4,000 feet of black tape on it.
So that
Yeah.
way it'll leak right through it all at once. On your son who's going to be laying underneath
For some reason it's getting all goofy. Why is it getting so goofy?
I don't know. Why is it getting goofy?
Careful, Disney might sue.
Oh, yeah.
It's probably on the... Probably because you got me on the camera.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go see what Jed's doing, so maybe
that'd be better.
it'll fix itself. What are you doing?
Well, everything was going really smooth until you came over here.
That's so mean.
It's true. Every bolt was going in without an issue. You came over here and now this one won't go in.
You want me to go back to your dad?
Yeah, go back to him.
Okay, we're going back to Dad. Who has completely coated this paint can cap in electrical tape.
Yeah, because it was getting kind of stupid. It's any port in the storm, man.
Any port in the storm?
Port in the storm. That's old sailor talk.
Yeah.
That's old crusher man talk.
Is it?
It's not Crusher Man talk.
Oh, I probably heard it more in the quarry than I have out on the boat.
How many times have you been on a boat?
Not as much as a sailor.
I could probably count on my hand how many times Dad's been on the boat.
In there, solid as a freaking rock.
Is it?
Now, so it'll fill up with tranny foot, so when you take that off, you have your nice little mess.
A nice bath of fluid from a tranny. You know, the same guy who just blew a tranny will now get showered by a tranny.
You're just having such luck with transmissions recently.
Now you just say the word tranny. It's funnier. Go in my pet car!
Apparently Jed put chickens on the engine.
Alright, it's a progress update. Big blocks and A-bodies. They're a pain in the butt. But it's almost done. We need to shift the engine over to the passenger side a little bit. As you can see, we have a gap there. No gap here. And we're kind of up against the stock motor mount on this side. I don't want to cut those off. Transmission mount's a little bit wonky, but I think we'll get that sourced out. One of the bolts holding the chains is kind of in the way. So Dad's taking that out so that way that won't be up against the firewall and get stuck there. And before you know it, this thing will actually be sitting in here. Be able to fabricate our mounts to bolt it to the motor plate. And well, that'll be that. It's a glorious moment! Wow, it didn't lower that much in the front at all. Alright, well the Barracuda's on the ground. Didn't actually drop that much to the front end. Kind of amazing. But there she is. Move that dipstick just a little bit. Let's see if... Yeah, she looks fairly square. So now all we got to do is... Well, it's still favoring that side. Well, Dad measured it and he said it was square. Alright, so unlike those boys on Motor Trend who always complain these blowers are heavy, I'm a guy from Kansas, thank you, so they're not that dang heavy. Oh yeah. Alrighty guys, well welcome back. And I got something to show you. One moment though. Okay. Let's start off with this. I just got done adjusting torsion bars, and if you didn't know, you can actually affect the rear of the car with your torsion bar. If you raise the driver's side, it'll affect back here. Like I just raised that, lowered this side, and same thing in a cross pattern. So I got the driver's side torsion bar pulled up because last night it was way down. Way down. So that torsion bar adjuster is about flush with the lower control arm. The other side sticks out just a little bit. I will probably live with that gap. The other side is kind of hard to live with, but I live with it. Oh, oh, oh. Get out of here. You're ruining my image. Yes. Very much so, yes. Lots of yes here. Doesn't really sit as tall as I thought it would, you know. It really doesn't. Because I was planning on putting my fuel pressure regulator like right here. I'm glad I didn't go ahead and make my bracket because that'd been a waste of time. So I'm going to figure out somewhere else to put it. I want to have the fuel pressure regulator where I can see the gauge, but that may not be a go. I might have just go ahead and put it on like the firewall where it'd be easy to manage and figure something out. I want it centrally located though. I want it here so that way you got a fuel line here and here, and they could snake around it here and there. But we'll work on that. Right now I'm going to test fit the new headers from Cody, see if they fit with these tires, if I need to raise the car up, what I need to do. So I'm going to get that done. I'll be back in a second. Alrighty, well we got some great news. The Hooker fender well headers we got from Cody clear much better than those other old headers I had. They don't rub this stud. Actually, they give you room for that stud to work on it. They snake out of the way. I think these are probably the headers the car was built around. At least this part number. Right there, Hooker Super Comp fender wells. Yeah, these are perfect. I got room for my master cylinder, unlike on the other one where it was real close. We'll probably put a little heat shield or something on that tube in particular, maybe on this one too. Seriously thinking about though, this collector exits right there. Thinking about cutting off right at the weld seam and turning the 4 pipes, boom, 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 and have an actual legitimate zooming. But that's down the road. So as you can see, this is going to work out real good where we put these spacers into the motor plate to keep this sturdy and rigid. This measures exactly a foot on either side, so the engine's square. So now, okay, so let me just run you by what I'm thinking about here. So instead of just welding the angle iron right to the frame rail and making it kind of a pain, if we ever got to pull this engine, it's got to come out with a tilt. And well, if that's butted right up against the motor plate, that's a no-go. So what my idea is I found some, it's not quite 1/4 inch steel plate there, and I notched it for this little bump here. I'm thinking I'm gonna chuck this little bolt, this 7/16 bolt, up into my lathe, and I'm gonna grind the head down until it's perfectly round, or turn it, and then I'm gonna drill the hole, press this in there, and I'll TIG weld it on the bottom side, then grind it flush if I got any, you know, shit sticking up. And that way you'll have these 2 bolts here, and then you'll be able to bolt the channel iron right to the frame rail, and then you'll still have room to put a bolt here and here. And that way, if you need to remove the angle iron, you can, and that way this engine can tilt, and the only thing that'll be in the way will be these bolts, but they'll be far enough back it won't matter. And I know it's probably over engineering it, but I'm thinking about in the future, if this engine's got to come out when it's got to come out, make it as easy as possible. So that's my idea. We're going to roll with it, see if it works. And if not, well, we'll just do it the old school way. Alrighty, so lots of work later. There's our setup. So this is probably hotter than crap, but I'll burn myself just for you guys because you guys are that awesome. So this is the plate that'll bolt to this little gusset, which I know is hot because that was red hot when I was welding in those little bolts. And as you saw, those were your 7/16 bolts. We turned the head down to about, just shy of 1/2 inch. I think it's like 485 thousandths. Drilled a hole, and we just TIG welded the backside of them in flush. That plate will get welded on right there, and then this piece will just slip on top of it, just like so, and that'll be butted up against the motor plate. And then we'll have our 2 holes there. I'm thinking a hole right here to go in between those 2, and then one over here. And that's this side. Then we'll just basically make the same thing for this other side, and that'll be simple. I mean, it's a little over engineered, but it gives us a way to, you know, tilt the engine. We can take just that piece off all by itself, and that was all grade 8 hardware, and it'll be grade 8 going back in it. That's how we roll here at Scott's Speed Shop. Alrighty, so here's the other side done. And I just realized, you know, I could have left those plates just a little bit longer sticking out, so it would have had more contact there, but hey, metal starts to look kind of not so great up in there near the shock support. I'd rather not mess with that. Over here it's been plated over to support the shock tower, or what's left of it. When we put in our bars to make this a 12-point cage, we'll be tying it in right here. You really should never just chop that and leave it like that. It'll work, but it's not really strong enough. This needs to be fully supported to something else. So now we'll just pull all of our plates off real gentle. We'll get the MIG welder out here and we'll zap this in on that side, and that side if we can. May not be able to get that side, but just those 2 sides will probably be good enough. Same thing on this side. And hopefully we don't mess anything up. Okay, I know this isn't like super duper freaking, what's the word, cool, fun to watch, entertaining, I don't know. But anyway, so there they are, mounted. Those plates are welded down below. And then we got 2 7/16 studs we made that come through that are welded to that plate that's welded to the frame rail. And then we got 2 more that go through that angle iron. So yeah, she shouldn't go anywhere. So now we get to start doing all the other little things like a radiator and getting the headers sorted out, making sure they're all kosher and cool, paint them bright white or gold or whatever color we're going to do them, and figure out gauges, starting panel, all that stuff. But that'll be next time. This is it for now, guys, because I'm